I'll admit that for the longest time I was a massive hater of the Half-Life series because without even giving the games a fair chance, all I could ever see through my hate goggles was a couple of overrated, dated games with a generic sci-fi alien invasion story and a gimmicky little physics system. I always thought people were praising this series just due to nostalgia and weren't seeing it for what it really was. But it turns out that I'm the one who was insane the whole time, because after playing through Black Mesa start to finish, I will gladly take back everything negative I've ever said about Half-Life, because this was by far the most incredible sci-fi adventure I've ever experienced in a video game since playing Halo 3 for the first time back in 2007, and from what I've heard, Half-Life 2 is even better than the original. Before we get into this, I'm going to warn you now that there will be spoilers for the later levels, but I won't be spoiling the entire story. Also, I want to make it very clear that I'm strictly going to be talking about what I played in Black Mesa only. I'm not going to compare it to the original at all because I have no experience with that version, and outside of graphics, I'm not sure what's changed, be it for better or for worse. So in Black Mesa, you play as Gordon Freeman, a graduate of MIT with a PhD in theoretical physics. You're hired onto the Black Mesa team to work in the Anomalous Materials Department, where you'll be doing nuclear, subatomic, and quantum research. On just another average day at work, you're tasked with pushing a cart containing sample GG-3883, aka a Xen crystal, into the anti-mass spectrometer. Unfortunately, the result of this is anything but average, ultimately creating a resonance cascade in which aliens from the border world Xen begin to cross over into our world. And this is where our journey truly begins. The aftermath of this event is nothing short of a small-scale apocalypse. Shortly after leaving the testing room, you're greeted with dead scientists, burning hallways, and even headcrab zombies. If only we wouldn't have blown up Dr. Magnuson's casserole, maybe this could have all been prevented. But only Half-Life 3 will have the answer we so desperately crave.
Hell? You think you can fix the vending machine too, college boy?
We will never hear the end of this.
Yeah, you best make like an atom and split. Cause that was you-know-who's lunch.
Regardless of why this is happening, we can't escape the reality that we now live in. Armed with your HEV suit and a plethora of weapons, you venture out into the facility to basically just murder everything. As a matter of fact, it dawned on me as I was writing this that Gordon kinda just goes berserk and turns into a rampaging killing machine for literally no reason whatsoever. Like, seriously, from a strictly story perspective, what actually was Gordon's motive for running around the facility and murking everything in sight? I mean, I could understand that at this point it's a survival situation, but if that was me, I would just hunker down and wait for rescue. I certainly would not be actively engaging zombie aliens in melee combat with nothing but a crowbar, but I don't know, maybe I'm just looking way too deep into it. All that aside, there is a shit ton of weapons to choose from and enemies to kill in this game. The variety actually shocked me as a first-time player because even when I got to the later levels of the game, there were still new enemies to kill and guns to collect. Weapons first, and you get well over a dozen to choose from. Some examples include the typical suspects like the SMG, pistol, and shotgun, as well as more exotic weapons like the Gauss cannon and whatever the hell this alien bug shooter thing is. And although there is a huge variety of weapons to choose from, I have one major complaint. In my opinion, the balance of the weapons is very, very terrible. One thing I noticed throughout my whole playthrough is that once I obtained the SMG, I hardly ever switched to any other weapon unless I absolutely had to, because I either ran out of ammo or I had to destroy a vehicle in the later sections with a rocket launcher. The SMG is literally a jack of all trades and a master of all trades. It has by far the most commonly accessible ammunition because most of the humanoid enemies are carrying SMGs, resulting in a constant flow of ammo. Even in Xen levels where there were no human enemies to fight, the SMG continued to reign supreme with the exception of the Interloper chapter because that one practically forces you to use the Gluon gun. On top of having insane ammo efficiency, it performs incredibly at short, medium, and long range thanks to great accuracy as long as you can burst fire properly. It does bonkers damage to any enemy that isn't a vehicle, and it even has a freaking grenade launcher attachment for AoE killing. As a result of this, probably 80% of my playtime was spent using the SMG. And don't get me wrong, okay, every weapon definitely has a unique place in the sandbox, but they each come with their own issues that the SMG simply just doesn't have. For example, the revolver is an amazing long-range weapon, but it suffers from poor ammo efficiency due to a small ammo capacity and very sparse pickups. The shotgun is great for close quarters, but it has an awful rate of fire and reload speed, making it very punishing if you continue to miss your shots, which is surprisingly easy when a hound eye is zooming towards you at Mach 7. Another example is the starter pistol. It uses the same ammo type as the SMG, making it nothing more than a straight downgrade from the SMG, as its main fire mode can only shoot semi-auto, and the alternate fire mode, although full auto, is exceedingly difficult to control. And these are just a few examples. I could easily talk about what's wrong with the rest of the weapons, but I don't want to drag this on for much longer. At the end of the day, you can either look at it optimistically or pessimistically. On the one hand, it makes the game much more chill to play and overall easier because you can simply just stick to the SMG and win. On the other hand, it kinda ruins the sandbox and makes every other weapon pointless outside of very niche applications because if you're not using the SMG, then you're simply just handicapping yourself. Also, another minor complaint I have is that accuracy seems entirely based on RNG. Maybe I'm wrong, but I tried crouch shooting and standing still, and neither of them seemed to affect my accuracy at all. And I should clarify that I played the game on Black Mesa difficulty, so I'm not sure how it's balanced on the other difficulties, but I'm not going to test it. I wouldn't imagine that they went through and meticulously balanced each individual weapon per difficulty anyway, so it is what it is. On to something more positive, I will say that the enemy variety is equally as incredible as the weapon variety, with the added bonus of being properly balanced. The game starts off pretty tame by first introducing you to head crabs and head crab zombies, which don't pose any real threat as they do very low damage and move pretty slow. Eventually you'll run into ground troops and all sorts of Xenian creatures more often. I absolutely love the enemies in this game because they've all got their own strengths and weaknesses. It never once felt like I was just pointing and shooting because there's always a way to take each individual enemy out efficiently, and there's also things you need to learn to avoid from each enemy. For example, when you're fighting soldiers, they will fight you like humans. They'll intelligently use cover to hide from your shots. Sometimes they'll use grenades to flush you out of your cover. They'll use turrets, and they come equipped with either an SMG or a shotgun. Thanks to their fragile, fleshy nature, however, a couple shots to the head seems to take them out pretty quickly. On the flip side, you have hound eyes, which are super fast and have this sort of sonic boom attack, but are also very squishy. So it's not a matter of if you can do enough damage, it's more about if you can actually hit them in the first place. Then you have head crab zombies, which move slow but typically come in large packs, are very aggressive and even occasionally use the environment to their advantage. You've also got alien grunts, which kinda serve as a frontline tank unit from Xen, typically suited with bulletproof armor, and even Vortigaunts who use ranged magic attacks. I really just wanted to get the point across that there is a whole lot of enemy variety, and there's a ton more enemies I didn't even talk about. My biggest complaint about combat is that this game has a massive difficulty spike towards the end of the questionable ethics chapter, which you're seeing on the screen right now, but it rewards you for playing strategically and learning your enemy's weaknesses. There's also a ton of unique encounters, like the tentacle monster on which you use sound as a weapon to distract it as you climb ladders and navigate hallways. Then there's the Gonarch, which basically you gotta like shoot its nutsack or something, and then you chase it down to shoot its nuts a little bit more. But of course, even though this game is an FPS at heart, there's so much more depth to this world than just shooting monsters that makes it an unforgettable journey from start to finish. First off, I absolutely love how the game world feels so connected. Every new mission starts you right off at the end of your previous one, and that paired with the lack of fade to black loading screens makes the game seem like one big continuous journey. From the second you step off the tram to when you beat the final boss, it feels like you were there to witness every single moment because you literally were. There was never a time where I went through a door and there was a huge time skip, or I went up a ladder and all of a sudden I'm on the roof of some building I've never seen before. On top of this, the story is told almost entirely through NPC dialogue encounters and environmental storytelling. There's a huge lack of cutscenes, which I absolutely love, because when I play an action game like this, I just want to go, go, go. I want to shoot everything, move to the next room, and shoot everything again. It's always annoying getting an unskippable cutscene every 20 minutes that takes control away from me, when you could just give a character some dialogue and let me move on with my goddamn life. I can definitely understand that some people may not enjoy this, but personally, I love it, and I wish more games would cut the cutscenes. It's such a small detail, but it's a big part of the reason why I love this game so much, because first off, I'm simply just too impatient to sit and watch cutscenes most of the time. And second, going back to what I said earlier about the game world feeling connected, cutscenes being replaced by a couple NPC dialogue lines and environmental storytelling makes the world feel like one big continuous adventure that you experience at your own pace, because you never lose control over your character and you're just constantly moving onward to the next objective with no unnecessary interruptions to break immersion. As a result of the story being delivered this way, the game lacks handholding almost entirely, and to me personally, that's a very positive thing. I think it gets exhausting when you're constantly being told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, but Black Mesa gets rid of that mindset completely. There's a great balance between linear and semi-open world map design that does an amazing job of guiding you towards your objective, but it doesn't give you a defined set of instructions to follow. If you want to run past every enemy in the level, you can do that. If you want to sneak past every enemy in the level, you can do that too if you're skilled enough. You can choose to explore every single path or just follow the general flow of the level. A lot of puzzles in this game will involve several different interactions to achieve one singular goal, such as pressing buttons in multiple different rooms so you can power up a railgun to destroy a wall. The game gives you this general objective to complete, but lets you choose the order and way in which you decide to complete it. The game does an incredible job at utilizing NPCs as well as the environment to push you forward, like in this Xen level where they use bioluminescent plants to guide your path as you get chased down by multiple Goliaths. I think that a lack of handholding is a really great thing to have in games because it incentivizes the player to explore and simply just figure things out for themselves. Personally, I'm the type of guy who just wants to beat the story once and never touch the game again. So if the game told me exactly where to go and what to do all the time, I probably would have missed 50% of what it truly has to offer. And since we're basically on the topic of level design, I have to say that thanks to the physics system, this game has one of the most enjoyable environments for you to just mess around with. There's exploding barrels that you can blow up, wooden crates you can break that sometimes contain health, armor, and ammo, and just a ton of physics objects in general that you can play around with, even if they aren't particularly useful for anything. One of my all-time favorite physics interactions is blowing up an explosive crate or barrel in an area full of wooden boxes and just seeing everything explode all over the place. Blowing up a monster and seeing their chunks fly is equally satisfying. Also, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes headcrab zombies will get a little bit angry and start throwing barrels and shit at you. Like I said, a lot of these objects don't serve any real practical purpose, but simply just being able to interact with them makes the game feel so much more alive and immersive. And as we near the end of this video, no discussion of Black Mesa would be complete without speaking about these Xen levels, and I've gotta say that this was by far my favorite section of the game. First of all, Xen is easily the most beautiful alien landscape I've ever seen in gaming history. And I don't say that lightly at all, because as someone who's played every Halo, every Mass Effect, Starfield, No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous, and so many random sci-fi games, none of them have ever captured the essence of a hostile, unknown, exotic alien landscape filled with bioluminescent plants, dense forests, deep dark caves, vibrant, sparkling waters, and deadly creatures anywhere near the level of Xen and Black Mesa. I could go on and on about how beautiful it is using words, but I'm confident that the footage you're about to see will speak for itself. My only real complaint about Xen is that the Interloper chapter dragged on for way too long. It was just tedious puzzle after tedious puzzle, but aside from that, I really loved it. I thought the parkour zones were really fun for the most part, with the exception of a handful of jumps that were really annoying. And to be honest, I kinda enjoyed all of the plug puzzles, which a ton of people seem to complain about. They felt like a nice change of pace from all the action in parkour for a while, at least in my opinion. So finally, I have a few really small nitpicks to briefly discuss that I didn't want to cram in the middle of the important bits. First off is that ladders are annoying as shit. I swear to God, these things only work half the time. Trying to get off of one of these things successfully is harder than a virgin at a strip club. And apparently, this game thinks that north is south and south is north because every time you try to go up, you end up going down and vice versa. Also, the audio balance seems really weird. My main issue is with guns, however. I've tried turning things down in game and on my system, but for some reason guns are just so freaking loud that they drown out everything else. Finally, I personally am not a fan of the huge lack of music. I know a lot of people prefer a more ambient cinematic experience, but when I'm killing dudes and aliens and shit, I want some hard-ass music playing in my ear. And it certainly wouldn't hurt to get just a little bit more exploration music. Other than that though, I have no more complaints whatsoever. Overall, Black Mesa is a damn near perfect game that any fan of the FPS genre is sure to enjoy. It's an absolutely unforgettable sci-fi adventure that takes you through so many beautiful levels and puts you up against some of the most engaging combat encounters using your huge arsenal of unique weapons. There's so much to explore, so many puzzles to complete, and an incredible story that's sure to keep you entertained from start to finish. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.